Welcome to the WayneBreezie channel, host of the WayneBreezie Show. I'm here to deliver to you great NFL content. You see the team, hit that sub button and tune in. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the WayneBreezie, the one and only. Let's go. Welcome to the special extra edition of the WayneBreezie Show, where I'm going to be covering more NFL news, and we got the playoffs going on, so I wanted to talk about the playoffs for sure, man, because, you know, I just love football. So, number one, make sure you guys hit that like button, all right? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're new, make sure you click on that subscribe button. If you are new to the channel, feel free to become a member of the Breezy Bunch crew. All you got to do is click join, and it'll give you the options on which membership tier you may like. That would be dope. And then make sure you guys check out our sponsors over at residency.com. That's right, residency.com. Use the promo code SFBreezy. You can save on your total purchase today. If those are NFL fans out there, man, they got NFL apparel for just about almost every city. They're working on getting every city, but they got cities out there. So, man, check them out, man. Go to www.residency.com. Use that promo code SFBreezy. We're going to do a wild card reaction recap. I wanted to make sure all the wild card games were over. The last game was crazy. I just watched the Los Angeles Rams demolish the Minnesota Vikings. Big freaking time, on prime time, Monday Night Football, if that's what you wanted to call it. But, man, Wild Card Weekend was exactly what you expected it to be. It was wild. I mean, wild, right? And some teams, man, 3 teams got knocked out, right? They got the freak out. Literally got knocked out of the playoffs. And I was going through my picks, man. I almost had 100%, but 2 of the teams that I picked ended up being losers in the playoffs, and I was a little sad, you know what I mean? But you can't win them all. All right? You can't win them all. So let's go ahead and look at what the playoff standings are currently looking like for the playoffs. As you can see, the teams that are advanced. Now, make sure you guys stay locked in right here on the WayneBreezie channel, because I'm going to make sure I bring you part 2 of the preview show, right? So I previewed the wild card games. I'm going to be previewing the divisional round, and as you can see, this is what it's going to look like. But let's go ahead and recap, man, some of the games that we got a chance to, witness. It was, and again, it was wild. Here's what I noticed about wild card weekend. If you were a team that can run the ball successfully, you were good. And it came down to running the ball. Now, I'm not saying that every team didn't have good rushing attacks or run games or whatever you want to call it. They did. The Chargers were probably a little weak in the run game. We'll talk about the Chargers game first for sure. But overall, the Chargers, I thought, had a weak run game. Steelers' run game has been mid all season. Broncos can't really run the ball. The Packers probably had a strong run game, in my opinion. Commanders didn't run the ball well at all. The Buccaneers did well in the run game, even though they ended up losing. And then the Vikings had a good run game, too, and they ended up losing. But, just having good rushing attacks really helped, kind of make these teams their cases and moving it on and advancing. So we're gonna go with the first 2 teams. We had the Chargers versus the Texans. The Chargers were on the road in Houston, and this game was pretty much boring at one point. And then it just became not boring. Now, I want to shout out Houston Texans for getting that dub, and they beat the bull craps off of Jim Harbaugh's Chargers. Before we move, we talk about, what the Houston Texans did. I do want to shout out the Chargers wide receiver, Lab McConkey. I thought he had a game, led all receivers this week in Wild Card Weekend in receiving yards, 9 receptions, 197 yards. He was averaging 21.9 yards per catch. He had a touchdown. He had a long of 86, but, it wasn't enough because, when you turn the ball over, that's where it got ugly. Justin Herbert, 4 turnovers, career high, 4 turnovers in this game, and it was just nothing that the Chargers could do. They weren't running the ball at that point. They were down by too many points. They lost this game by 20, and it was just enough. When you turn the ball over, I'm a huge believer in lose the turnover battle. You lose the turnover battle, you lose the game. Huge believer in that. Huge believer. But 4 interceptions, how do you overcome that? You're talking about a top paid quarterback in the league and literally bombs out of the first round. Now, granted, I don't think the Chargers are finished. I think they'll come back. They'll contest. They do got some free agency stuff to look into. They got to find a way to run the ball successfully, man, because you can't put in the playoffs, you can't put it all on just, the quarterback dropping back 55 times and trying to throw the ball. That's just not how it works. You know what I mean? 40 times would be too much, and so you get into them high 30s, you're taking chances. Just four turnovers. C.J. Stroud, though, I wanted to give him his props. Round of applause to C.J. Stroud. Second year. Didn't have the best second year, sophomore year. I wouldn't say he was in a slump. Just wasn't as good. He doesn't have a lot of his playmakers. Let's just keep it a buck. No Diggs. No Tank Dell. They're both out for the season. They were there at the game. But he did have his number 1 guy, Nico Collins, who was the second number 2 wide receiver out of the playoffs in the top 5. He's number 2, 122 yards off of 7 receptions, 1 TD, 41 long, 17.4 average. And that's what you needed. We needed the Stroud to Collins connection. You needed that Stroud to Collins connection. But here's what helped enable that. The turnovers for sure, but they finally were able to get Joe Mixon going, which I think has been the key to their team this year. Like them being able to have a running back where they could run the ball, throw him the ball. Like it just changes up the game plan and how teams have to prepare for the Houston Texans defensively. But the star of the Houston Texans was their defense. Their defense was the star. I just told you they have 4 interceptions, and what more can you ask for? So the Chargers first team knocked out of the playoffs. First team knocked out of the playoffs. We're going in order, too, because now you got the Steelers in that night game, Saturday night game. Steelers versus Ravens. And, AFC North divisional battle, right? We're talking about divisional battle and the wild card. So these two teams see each other already twice. It's the 3rd time they're seeing each other this season. And what a game. What a game. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I remember it being like 21-0 at one point in this game. And it just looked like the Ravens were going to put up 8,000 billion points. But, the Steelers were able to score. But here's the key to their game, man. It's running the ball. It's Derrick Henry. They were down their best receiver in Zay Flowers in this game. But you want to know what kept the Ravens afloat? We're talking Derrick freaking Henry. King Henry led all running backs in rushing. This guy had 26 carries. They put it on the King's back. You want to ride into the next round, you ride on the back of your king. 186 yards for Derrick Henry. He was averaging 7.2 yards per carry, finished with 2 touchdowns, had the long of 44. It was like they just did not know how to tackle him. And you wouldn't think that because the Steelers usually they usually bring a great defense. Doesn't matter if they're at home or on the road, but their defense was suspect this whole game in this loss. Defense suspect in this whole game. And I expected more from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think they started fighting a little. Their fight was too late. Their fight was way too late. 14 points, that's all they were able to give up. You saw the interviews with George Pickens and at the end of the game and his comments. I mean, the kid is a comedian. I would give him that. The kid is a comedian, but the Ravens were just too much. I didn't have the Ravens losing. I had the Ravens winning. So far I'm 2-0 at my picks. I picked the Texans at home. I picked the Ravens at home. Let's see if I can go 3-0 in the AFC. Let's get to that next game. First game on Sunday. The Buffalo Bills were taking on the Denver Broncos. Broncos led by their rookie quarterback, Bo Nix. Bo Nix. And you can see the score flashing across the screen. I mean, this game, it was 31-7. And I mean, the Denver Broncos, I mean, look, it too rich for their blood, man. You play good throughout the season, you get into the playoffs, and then you got to play the juggernauts. And when you play a juggernaut, you got to have, I'm trying to think of who was the Juggernaut's arch nemesis in the X-Men series, and somebody will probably put it in the chat, so make sure you comment it. But you got to, I always like to say Colossus because he can get big like the Juggernaut, but it wasn't Colossus. Anyway, you got to find a way. You got to have somebody to stop a juggernaut. And the Denver Broncos, unfortunately didn't have it. Von Miller against his former team did what he needed to do. Josh Allen played average game, in my opinion. He was number 2 quarterback of the week. Put up 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 272 yards, 135.4 rating. I'll give it to him. And you give it he was the best quarterback rated wise. If you go by rating, he was number 1. Josh Allen is Josh Allen, damn near. We talking MVP candidate Josh Allen, and I'll ask you guys that at the end of the show. Who do you think should be the season's MVP? Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley or Lamar Jackson? You guys can let me know what you think later. All 3 guys are and remain in the playoffs. But James Cook was the bell guy. He was the guy, number 2 running back, and he was doing his thing. He was doing his thing. 23 carries, 120 yards, average 5.2. This is what you want. You got to lean on your running back, man. You want to move in these playoffs, man. Here's where teams struggle when they can't run the ball, because then teams going to play pass defense. They know you're not going to run it, and then they force mistakes. I loved what I saw from James Cook, and I will say, just a quick, my fantasy show called What's Your Fantasy, the WayneBreezie show. WayneBreezie presents What's Your Fantasy with co-host Crystal Peachy B. I will say this, that James Cook might be running back 1 or 2 going into next season. Running back 1 or 2. Saquon Barkley. I take that back. I'll say he's a top 5 guy. I'm not sure how many people are going to be sold on Derrick Henry next year, but he's definitely a top 5. I would say James Cook is top 5 running back, and maybe Christian McCaffrey falls down a little bit. So might be a bargain to get Christian McCaffrey a little bit later, depending on how he comes back. But you got to look at James Cook and say, oh my gosh, he's a 1,000-yard rusher again, and they are figuring out how to use James Cook. So shout out to the Buffalo Bills. So the AFC, man, you got your winners from the AFC. Let's give them guys a round of applause. You got the Houston Texans. You got the Baltimore Ravens, and you got the Buffalo Bills. Those are your 3 AFC guys. Let's flip the script. Let's get to some of the NFC, the NFC matchups. Had the 3 matchups. Had the first matchup. You got the Broad Street Bullies. I call them the Broad Street Bullies. They ready to knock cats off and knock cats out. There was no way that Green Bay stood a chance against the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't care if quarterback Jalen Hurts was limping on 1 foot, 1 leg, half good. It didn't matter. I just didn't feel like this Packers team was brolic enough to go against a the number 1 defense in the league. It was gonna be rough. And then you go to the city of Philadelphia, man. Philly beat them 22-10. Not a crazy blowout, but the defense only gave up 10 points. And this is what top defenses do in the playoffs. They don't give up points. They don't allow scoring. And so when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, what did they do? I mean, Jalen Hurts was back. I saw, and here's the funny part. You're a crazy dominant team when your number 1 wide receiver is a non-factor in this game and he gets caught on the sideline reading the book during the 4th quarter. You already know. I mean, what kind of crazy, is that? And here's the crazy part. I was reading the story. Nick Sirianni is okay with A.J. Brown, feeding his intellect. I don't know what he was reading, but he was reading. Might have been reading a Pokemon magazine. It doesn't matter. Reading is fundamental. And the Packers were just not, they just weren't even, they didn't even contest. I mean, and I felt bad for Josh Jacobs because I said in the preview show, I said, hey man, in my picks and prediction show, I said, check this out, man. They're gonna have to ride the back of Josh Jacobs. You're gonna have to. But it wasn't enough. The Eagles knew how to take away the run. Josh Jacobs did end up scoring the touchdown for the Packers. He did. But the Eagles do got some things they got to continue to work on. I believe their kicker struggled a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Kickers, man, this year has been crazy. Kickers have been crazy this year, all over the place. But you got to give it to them, man. The Eagles look tough. They haven't played football, and they look really tough. Their starting quarterback hasn't played in the past 2 weeks. Let me refrain that. But, man, when you got a guy like Saquon Barkley, you know that you are going to always be in the game. He was number 3 in rushing this week. 119 yards off of 25 carries, average 4.8 yards per carry. Didn't score, but he was definitely a factor in this game. And like I said, the Eagles continue to knock cats right on out. They knocked them right on out of the wild card. All right, let's get to the next game. All right, get to the next game. Before we do that, man, make sure you hit that like button. All right, if you're new, it's first time you're watching, you happen to come across it, make sure you hit that sub button. All right, click on subscribe. It's super easy. You'll see it. You can't miss it. All right, and if you want to support the channel, man, and you don't have to, but if you want to support the channel, go ahead and become a member of the Breezie Bunch crew. Click on join, take a look at the options, and do so, man. Help support the stream, man. All right, man, let's get to that Commanders-Bucks. This might have been the game of the week. Like, Commanders-Bucks had to be the game of the week. Out of all the games, this was definitely the most exciting, the most nail-biting, came down to the actually very mother-freaking end to a kick. Literally came down to a kick in this game, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it literally came down to a kick. 23-20 was the final score, and they put it on their kicker. Whew. You want a game, walk-off kick. You want a game where, you know, this game was, and I said, this is one of the ones that I lost too. So this is one of my picks. I picked the Bucks to win at home. I did. But I remember I caveated it with, go back and watch the show and tell me what I said. I said the Bucks will win, but they cannot allow this game to be close. And the moment they lost Jamal Dean and some of their DBs were out, McCollum went out, like it was just, then Jada Daniels felt a little bit more comfortable back there. But they were giving Daniels the fritz. I'm not going to front. No cap. Like Daniels was he was on the fritz, you know? But as soon as they lost those man coverage guys, and I got to give a round of applause too, man. My hand claps go to wide receiver Diami Brown, who was number 5 on the receiving list throughout the playoffs. 5 receptions, 89 yards, a touchdown. All right, only had 89 yards, and that's okay. Both of the receivers from Washington, both him and Terry McLaurin, had 89 yards apiece. They both had touchdowns, but Diami Brown really kept this game alive. You wanted a guy that was just, I didn't even know he could make plays like that. I didn't know he was a tough runner. I didn't know like he could run out of the backfield. Like they got, isn't it Diami Brown? Isn't it the kid, the wide receiver from North Carolina a couple years back? I felt like I remember meeting him at the Senior Bowl, but he stepped up big time. Big time. Their 2 wideouts were able to help out Jaden Daniels, and the Commanders got the win. And, you know, Adam Peters put a team together. Even before putting a team together, like Adam Peters went and got his coach. He went and got the guy he wanted to come in here, and Dan Quinn, and lead this team, you know what I'm saying, to a different height, like a different level. And I commend them. Like, I commend Adam Peters. I know he's a former 49er guy, but I commend him, man. I commend everything that he did. The draft picks were great. They were flying around on defense, and they stayed into this game. And don't get it twisted, man. Look, if you're a Buccaneers fan and you happen to be watching this, don't be mad at me. Your quarterback literally this game over, right? Like Baker Mayfield, he messed up. He did. You know, that fumble was crazy. Then there was another turnover a little bit later in the. It's just like, yo, you can't lose the turnover battle. Like, there was no turnovers up until that fumble point. It might not have been a fumble after that. It might have been like a botch play, but still, like, they had an opportunity. They couldn't capitalize on it. But the turnover, the fumble, is what changed the momentum of that game. And if Baker Mayfield doesn't fumble that snap or botch that snap or whatever it was, like the handoff or whatever, it's like a trick play. Like, don't even run a trick play. Just run a conservative, basic play. I've never in my life wanted anything to be conservative or ask for anything conservative. But when you have command of the game, you don't got to run anything trickery. You don't got to use the trickeries. And I'm mad because I had the Bucs winning. But congratulations. If you're a Commanders fan, man, you deserve it for sure. And then the nightcap game, you know, on Monday night, the last game, the Vikings versus the Rams. Our prayers do go out to the city of L.A. And L.A. and the Rams. L.A. had a home game in Arizona, so shout out to Arizona's general owner for sending those jets and helping, you know, get the Vikings people and their families out there. I mean, Rams and their family out there. Like, I thought that was awesome. Round of applause to the owner for the Cardinals helping out. That's what brotherhood is all about, right? But man, this game was crazy. This might have been the best defensive game of the week. Like, this was all defense. No, and I'm not taking it. Listen, this is not me taking anything away from Matthew Stafford, who is still a top quarterback in this league, top 10 for sure, might even be in the top 5 the way you look at it. When he's healthy and he's got, you know, his guys, he's good. And he's the most experienced quarterback in this league. I mean, in these playoffs. I will say that. He's the most experienced. Only him and Patrick Mahomes got Super Bowl rings, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just go through it, but I believe I'm right. As far as the quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, they got rings. But Sean McVay and that defense and the offense, I mean, I think they lost Tyler Higbee at one point in this game, but the defense, 9 sacks.
What the hell is that shit?
They had 6 sacks in the first half. Those rookies were going bananas. I was like, yo, what the freak? Did the Vikings forget how to block? Now, listen, you get sacked that many times, man. I'm sure you've seen dead people, ghosts, live people. You've seen everything underneath the sun, man. This was just a reincarnation of Sam Darnold. He is who we thought he was. Like this is the Sam Darnold that we thought he was. I know there were some crazy takes out there about Sam Darnold and they should have signed him with the 40. No. He was having an anomaly year. He looked good. He beat the Niners. Don't get it twisted. I'm not butthurt about it. But at the end of the day, how many of you knew he was going to be Sam Darnold again? I raised my hand. And Sean McVay did too. And that's why they were sending all kinds of exotic-looking pressures. And they were getting to him left and right. And he just couldn't get up. I mean, his timing was so bad. I felt like he got Jordan Addison dinged up. Like, everything was off. I feel bad for Addison and Jones and Jefferson and those guys because they put their faith and trust into a guy like Sam Darnold, and Sean McVay's defense came up and rattled all of that all the way up. All that all the way up. I know that's some crazy language for you, but listen, it's my language and I'm sticking to it. Vikings only put up 9 points. They did score a touchdown, but they only put up 9 points. 27-9. In that final wild card weekend. And listen, I want to know out there, like, how wild was wild card weekend for you? Like, how wild was it? Because I thought that was pretty wild. Now, I'll be the first person to say that I think AFC games be a little tad bit boring. They don't have the same fanfare, I feel, as the NFC games, but that's just my bias. But I also don't watch a lot of AFC football until playoffs. And then when I have to, and I'm forced to watch it, I'm like, what the hell is this? But the NFC be on point. It don't matter when they play. It don't matter. Those games, it just got more spaz and jazz and hits and whatever. It just feels more jazzed up. But congratulations to all the winners. Sorry to all the losers out there. But listen, divisional round is coming up. I can tell you right now, I can't wait to give my predictions for the divisional round because the matchups are going to be crazy. Just want to show them to you one more time before we dip up out of here. You got the Commanders at the Lions. You got the Rams at the Eagles. Oh, the Rams got to travel to Philly. And Washington is traveling to Detroit City, baby. On the AFC side, you got the Houston Texans. They're traveling to Kansas City. And the Baltimore Ravens are headed up to Buffalo. That might be the game of the week. Ravens, Buffalo Bills. Let me know what your game of the week is here in the chat, man. Feel free to do so. All right. Make sure you guys use that promo code SFBreezie over at our sponsors at Residency. Until the next time, stay up, y'all. It's football season, and it's almost coming to an end. Thank you all for your support here on the WayneBreezie channel. If you're new, make sure you click on that subscribe button. Don't forget to smash the like button and check out the other videos. Thanks for watching.